6 o'clock.
It's 6 o'clock somewhere.
Please join me. Pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's see. We did that, we did that.
Okay. Before I even get into the minutes, I just want to take and make sure there's been some, and I'll talk a little bit more in detail. Darlene, you got all the emails that I sent out? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Bev, you got them all?
Yep.
I know Julie didn't, I had to work with her,
Yep.
she got them, and we did a test message to get them out of the new domain, that works. Paul?
Yes.
Jeff said he hasn't, I'm gonna have to take and check, and Bob is, okay. I have. All right. With that, let's go to the, meeting minutes.
Just one quick thing on this, under discussion of the detailed general ledger, it probably should be Alan Mayo.
Oh.
Turned him into my relative.
Oh, we can end up, one of the things, I know this is new to you, Paul, is absent, but you could also put, if we have from another department, such as guests, probably put Alan, and I can't think of his name.
Mickey Kirby, Michael Kirby.
He didn't hear you.
That's
Michael Kirby.
Kirby, yes.
I love with the deaf man. I know.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Alan Mayo, and
Oh, I had it until you brought, you said you not.
Okay.
You
Okay.
mentioned who's here, I'll lose the name.
and he's talking about this Alan, you have Alan May, it's Alan Mayo,
That's what,
okay?
All right.
yep, that's what Bob just said.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
I'll second that.
With those changes?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other changes? Do I have a second? A motion to accept the minutes with the changes, putting, changing the first paragraph to Alan Mayo, and then guests as Alan Mayo and Mr. Kirby.
Second page,
Second page?
halfway down, it says Cameron Forded. It should be Forte with a F.
Forte. F-O-R-T. F-O-R-T-A?
Yes.
TES.
T-S.
Yes,
Yes, instead.
what I have. I still don't see it.
Okay.
Discussion, it starts with discussion.
Discussion on the printout.
Third,
Oh,
third
okay.
line down,
Yep.
about 4
Yep.
words in.
Any other changes?
Don't want a selectman getting mad at me.
Yeah, on the third page,
Yeah,
the big,
third page, same thing. It's Cam's name.
no, his name is spelled correctly there.
All right,
Where it says interim TA, the third sentence down, it says B before. I think it's just a interim TAB before converting to the new account. I think it should just be before.
okay. Before converting to an account, I got it.
What did Judy say? I didn't catch it.
We just had an extra word in there, so
Oh,
I'm just removing
okay.
the B after the interim TA.
Okay, got it. Okay. So with those changes,
So that was my,
I got a motion to accept with the changes that were just mentioned?
Julie, and did someone second?
Yes?
I'll second it.
Bev, okay.
Any other discussion before we vote? Okay. Motion to accept the minutes with the changes and page 1, page 2, and page 3, as noted. Darlene,
Yes.
Bev,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes,
Paul,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. Okay. We have budget to actual, and I guess Vice Chairman has something from the last one he wanted to talk about.
Yes, and I'm hoping it's my math, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, we did.
When we did the transfer to cover snow and ice, the, budget versus actual for dated June 29th, 2017, showed town vehicle fuel having been allocated for $73,000. And
which
the end
page
of the
is that
year.
on? Pardon me? What page is that on? This is,
Page 3. This was from the budget versus actual dated 6/29/2017.
yeah, I brought that one.
Page 3, top of the page, town vehicle fuel.
Ah, got it.
It says allocated $73,000. So I had been doing some checking because I remembered that we did a lot of transfers with town vehicle fuel, and I'm trying to see if there's a reason that they put so much in it when we don't seem to use it for fuel. So I went back and I looked at the town meeting spreadsheet to see what was allocated for town fuel. It was $100,000. The budget versus actual dated September 12th, 2016 shows town vehicle fuel at $100,000. A special town meeting on October 20th, 2016 transferred $19,500 from town vehicle fuel. $10,000 to unemployment compensation and $9,500 council of aging. Which would, from $100,000, would be $80,500. The budget versus actual dated November 7th, 2016 shows $80,500. The budget versus actual dated May 11th, 2017 shows $80,500. The annual town meeting of May 13th, 2017 shows $11,000 transferred from town vehicle fuel, $3,500 to inspection services, $5,000 for group insurance, and $2,500 to Medicare. So if you subtract the $11,000 from $80,500, it doesn't equal $73,000. And when we were asked to do the transfer, it shows $73,000 allocated. But, and the budget versus actual end of the year that we just received, it shows allocated $60,500. If you recall, we transferred $12,500 out of town vehicle fuel to pay snow and ice. So it's off. My math has about $1,500 left in snow and ice instead of the $6,608.51 that
Well,
it shows.
Maybe I can clarify that. I just pulled out of that mailbox, and I'm gonna pass these out.
I got his email. Okay, too.
The end of the year revenue numbers
Yeah.
that I talked to the accountant about. So here's the revenues. First sheets of revenues.
Thank you.
be enough here. Hopefully, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep.
Are these the ones that just came out today at 140?
Yes, 116,
Okay. So these are revenue.
yes.
All right.
The next one I'm gonna give you is the expenditures.
All
I
right.
mean, I haven't even had time to
I think
look at these
That's coming.
per se, I just took them out the box.
How convenient.
All right, well, I printed mine out.
Yeah, that's,
I didn't get the email.
that shows, 60,500,
Yeah,
and if you add the 12,500 that we transferred out, that would equal 73. But
Yeah.
the 11,000 transferred out of town vehicle fuel at the annual town meeting does not seem to be accounted for. I'm hoping it's my math or I missed something, but, it's a question that bears explanation from the
Right.
town accountant.
my question is, once town meeting allocates that amount of money, even though we transfer money out, that number that was allocated should be what was allocated.
Well, it's.
That's what they change. From what I understand is, if we allocate it out of there, they move it from that fund, they reduce that fund by that much and move it to
Okay.
the other account.
Okay,
Because you don't have 100,000 to spend.
right, okay.
So, like I said, the budget versus actual dated May 11th, 2017 shows 80,500. Annual town meeting, and it's on page 3, and it was Article 1, operating budget amendments. And it passed unanimously at 9:27 a.m. And there's a total of $11,000 from town vehicle fuel.
Getting these, the end of the year revenues and expenditures, to me, was something that I was hoping we'd get early enough to take a look at them earlier, but this late in it, I would end up recommending that we take a look at what Mr. Bennett said, and look at the expenditures over the year, and adjust that fund accordingly, and that we table looking at the end of the year, for 17, till the next meeting on the 16th.
Is that a motion?
I'll entertain a motion to look at the end of the year budget information, revenue and expenditures at the meeting on the 16th.
And I so moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to end up moving discussion on the end of the year for FY 17, the expenditures and the revenue for 17. Any more discussion? And actually look at what Mr. Bennett brought up when we end up going through those.
Okay.
Any discussion?
It's also the same for the 911 grant. It's still 27,000 off.
27 off?
Yeah.
Okay,
Over
we'll have to bring that up and see what the answers are for that,
Okay.
okay? Any other discussion? Okay. Darlene,
Yes.
Bev,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes,
Paul,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes.
all right. Under the next one, tell them that you're having trouble getting an email. Did you get any emails
No.
from?
Today?
No, yesterday.
Okay. Status on the update and actions on the email name change in a new domain?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I don't think I got an email from you yesterday.
When did you send out the,
I sent it out over the weekend, all that documentation.
Okay, I got some stuff,
all right,
but,
go up into the search box.
no, wait,
All right,
um,
never mind.
folders.
So effective Monday, I notified all the departments that's what our email is. I sent out,
When did you send out the budget to actual? You didn't, right?
no, no.
Okay, all right. then
I
got
sent
everything,
out-
I think.
I sent out, about 4 or 5 emails over the weekend out of that.
Okay,
Like I said earlier, Julie had a problem, we got that resolved. I'm gonna have to look at why Jeff, wasn't able to get it.
the only thing I did, Holly sent out a new email, and I couldn't open it. It was about the open meeting law violation.
Yep. But we'll get to that one.
Yep.
A few other things. I set the forwarding from the old email, and I actually tested that. It did work. Like I said, there was a problem with 2 people. I got one of those resolved. I'm gonna have to end up checking on as to why Jeff can't get it. I may end up having to put his email and address in again and try getting that to him. I archived the old one, but when I archived it and sent it over, I noticed that there was spam, which I typically didn't check in that. So, what I ended up doing is I had to go back and delete the spam out of the old email. And it's based upon a review of all the emails. There's gonna be some that are out of the 2,000 that I think we're going to end up having to going through all of them and deleting those that are not necessarily something that we have to keep. Because there was 210 megabytes. It was quite large
It's a lot.
file. One of the things I did notice, and I talked to support on this, when I did archive it, and got to look into it a little bit more, is that as that test archive, I sent over to our new email address, it comes up as M-Box, and I don't believe there's anything to open it up by sending it over. So I'm gonna have to end up doing some research on that.
So the issue.
So we're gonna need a method to open and read all the ones from the old system on the new system.
Open issue about accessing.
Yep.
The archived emails, you're saying,
Right.
right?
Further investigation with support.
Who's the support, Will?
I'm thinking it might be Gmail, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
One of the things I did talk to Holly about today is because of the way the new email is set up, there's a string on the top of it that are tasks, etc. And I asked, what are these what do these functions do, and is there any training on the function? To my why I wasn't really surprised is that no, there is no official training for that new email. To end up finding out what those functions are. I did find out that everybody has somehow transferred this new email domain over to Outlook. And they're typing up their emails in Outlook and sending them out. I'm going to have to investigate that because it's, when I produced the contacts list for all of us, I had to put all that in. And what I found out is when I go to end up creating an email and composing, it's much different than Gmail, which we were using previously. In fact, for sending to, there's a little X. You click on the X and it brings up everybody's name. So then I have to go and hit this box with your name and your email address down, and it pulls it over. So it's a little bit different. It took me a while to understand what I had to do there. Without training, it wasn't exactly easy. Or being told, even a 5 or 10 minute explanation of the differences. But because they do everything in Outlook, they probably don't even realize what this new email domain is like. Let's see, what else under that?
Give you credit for at least figuring it out.
Yeah.
I probably never would have.
So there's still quite a bit to do with the old email and do some additional checking. The point that was brought up last time about putting it on discs are going away. So I don't think that's a viable alternative. So there's a number of things that we still have to look at and changing that over, and some actions that have to be taken over. I'll give you another update on this, on the 16th one, if I can find out a few things. But going through 2,000 emails to get rid of the ones that we really don't know, don't need, is gonna take some time. Any questions on that? Okay. At Paul's request at the last meeting, he had done a nice PowerPoint presentation. It was about reviewing the action advisory committee roles and recommendations. I think I sent that to everybody. I thought it was well done. Some of it is pertinent now.
So, I mean, the whole purpose of this document was, I was looking at it as a way of providing a formal written request to the select board and the town administrator that summarizes the numerous requests
Yep.
from the advisory committee that are still outstanding. And this is going back since the beginning of the budget planning cycle, so. And it does hinder our ability to, perform our functions, so. This format is, I cross-referenced the open requests with the town bylaw that specifies, what the advisory committee function is. And I did provide some more definition to the request and made some recommendations on how to proceed. So on the first one, Article 4, Section 4 of the town bylaws, it says, that's page 2, it says, "It shall be the duty of the advisory committee to consider the expenditures in previous years, estimated requirements for the ensuing year of the boards, officers, committees of the town, as prepared by them in such form and detail as may be prescribed by said committee." So, I mean, we've talked about this before, where there's definitely, according to the bylaw, a role of the advisory committee in terms of defining what that process and the budget format should be. And in fact, the advisory committee did provide a budget planning template prior to this FY18.
Yes, we did.
And it was a template, it was a spreadsheet format that could be easily compiled, all the departments together into one. However, the select board decided to use their own format.
It was more of the TA that initiated this.
Right, but that was the decision they went forward
Right.
with, and we worked with their format for the FY18 planning. Okay, and it also says, it goes on to say that should add a statement, that our committee will add a statement of expenditures and estimates appropriated for the ensuing year, and shall further add such explanations and suggestions relating to the proposed appropriation as may deem expedient. Okay? So, a lot of the recommendations here were already mentioned at the annual town meeting. And we stated at that meeting that we felt that the joint meetings of the select board and the advisory committee were productive, that they should continue. We said the advisory committee also feels that the budget format used was more complete than what had been used in prior years. And we would like to see this continue with some adjustments. So there's the list of recommendations. Begin the budget planning process sooner. That was our number one recommendation.
Yep.
In line with the suggested municipal calendar from the Department of Revenue. All right? We said it should include a column for the Town Advisory Committee recommendation to the department budget detail, the general fund department expense budget, and the revenue projections sections of the budget planning documents. Now, we kind of talked about this in the working sessions and in our own meetings in the past. I'm not sure if there were any other sections of the budget in which we'd want to see that column added. Anybody have?
Some of the, let me just say this, I just received a message from Mr. Carter that was in our box earlier this week. I haven't, and it's got a new schedule. I was hoping that they could end up holding that off till new business. If you want me to bring that up now, or.
A new schedule for the budget
Right,
planning?
Right.
That's fine, I just wanted to state that we wanted to start it earlier.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay. And if that's what it addresses it, does it have to be according to the municipal calendar suggested by the DOR, or?
It should be.
Okay. So that's something we should look at and evaluate if that meets our
It's
requirements?
strongly recommended that they can follow that.
Okay.
It starts the process earlier, so that you can end up getting it done early enough, so that a lot of things can be taken care of. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so we'll take a look at that and see if it meets our requirements. So also, we want to make available to the advisory committee in a timely manner worksheet versions of the budget planning documents. This has been requested multiple times. It was at both the working sessions I attended. We did it, it's at other open meetings. And the only thing that had been provided to us were the PDF files. And those, we can't do our calculations and projections and with unless we need them in Excel format, is what we've been saying from the beginning.
It gives us the opportunity that they can end up making some changes and seeing what the impact is versus trying to take and do stuff on paper, which is time-consuming and
Mhm.
difficult.
Right.
It hides things. The book that he gave us, there was stuff in there that unless you really had time to dig it out, you missed it. If it's in Excel, it's in your face, you see it. There's no stashing it away. It's open, it's honest, and this is the budget.
Well, when they went to this new format, let me just say this. The format that we had proposed to them had been used by the town for a long time, Excel. It put everything on one sheet. It gave you the opportunity to put the actual account numbers into any item. It was listed there. It was listed so that you could end up putting those items on. The way the new budget format is, they've got it broken down into different sections, different numbers within the accounting.
Yeah.
So it makes it multiple page and a little more difficult to go through than maybe 3 or 4 pages is what we had previously.
Not open and transparent at town hall either, because for years, we had a line item budget. And There was a day that we sat there and went through that budget line item by line item, and
Right.
people didn't have a problem with
The
that.
community didn't get to see the individual line items that they can end up having any discussion.
Yep, so I think that slowly, traditions get washed away if you don't fight for them. And it's open and honest government, and if there is something that any selectman or select board decides they want, then they have to fight for it. They have to convince the people. But if it's hid, it's not open and transparent. And that I have a problem with. I think what you have here makes sense. I can't even imagine what all that paper cost. What a waste. And then
Well, in
aside
past years,
from-
in
it's just
past years,
crazy.
even though it was an Excel form, and people got them in Excel form,
I know, well,
they did make, for the advisory and for the selectmen, they did do a budget book, a number of years, because if you look at our archives, which are downstairs, you can end up actually seeing some of those books. We still have some of those.
I mean, we don't have to go back 100 years. We've got technology today that makes it easier and to understand and to see, and that's what we should use. You know,
It would be easier if we had an Excel.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna end up.
Yeah.
I have to agree with Paul, that's,
I was kinda hoping that we would get a new person so that we could start off fresh and do things in a more modern way. Even I can get that.
Well, I mean, even with their new process, they work with spreadsheets, the department heads.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, that was their input documents, it just
So-
was not made available to us.
right, exactly.
So, we're saying, in order for us to, do our jobs, we need access to those input documents.
I would think so.
And everything in a spreadsheet format.
We're not far away from a quill and a pen.
Yeah.
You know, an inkwell.
Yeah.
Okay,
It was just, too much work and too many chances of data entry error for us to, I was trying to do those revenue projections and different gyrations, and if I input something incorrectly, we would have a variance to begin with, so.
Yeah. I think this is very acceptable.
Okay, then the next item was include a column for the prior year actual expenditures for the department budget detail and the general fund department expense budget. We requested this in the beginning of the work sessions, and we were told it's too much work, too short a timeline to provide because of the reorganizations that were going on and whatnot. They just weren't gonna be able to do that.
well, we have the end of the year 17, we should be able to get the information out of that. Or there should be a column that
We have
includes
an
that.
assistant accountant, we have an accountant, and we have a new treasurer collector, so
Yep.
we should be able to get this information.
I did meet the new treasurer collector today, Mrs. Richards.
I'm just saying, the information is available, put it in the format of the documents that we're going to be
Right.
working with, so.
Yep.
We don't have to go off and pull our own information off of a different source and then
Right.
go back and forth with them and waste time. Let's all agree that we need it. Now this next one is my, hot button. In the revenue projections, I want to move the rows or the categories for new growth, debt exclusion, and capital exclusion from the prior year actual columns in the revenue projections to below the total lines in order to show accurate revenue totals. To date, that budget package is still double counting those amounts. We've got incorrect revenue totals in those books.
And that's why we're always broke. Because
Well, I
we're
mean,
not-
it
well,
didn't come
part of
down
it is
to-
they're not using good figures.
Right, it didn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but it was confusing. I don't know how many times we went back and forth with them before they finally stood up and Kelly, in one of the joint sessions, and agreed, yes, that's being double counted. She put it there for display purposes, but it was skewing the revenue totals. So it's confusing, it's, you know,
Yep.
providing no value by doing that. And then, add a row or category to the revenue projections worksheet to display total expenditures for the prior and projected years. That's just so that we would have in one report, you know, one page of the budget book, we can see what the net balances
Yep.
are. Okay? Now, in the past, we asked for that, and they said they weren't able to do it because of the, you know, some of the audit results weren't available. We requested, let's use the revenue projections that, or the revenue numbers that the audits had come up with,
Yep.
and that still was not made available to us during the budget planning process, so. And then the last bullet was advisory would like to see attention to the stabilization fund and the capital improvement reserves. You know, actually budgeting money for those two funds. That was something that we stated in the annual town meeting as well. You know, make it a line item, even if they budget nothing for it, you know, at least make it visible and have a goal of putting funds into the plan.
Because if you look at our financial policy, it says that we put free cash in there. And it actually spells out when free cash is using, as much as 20% for acquisitions, and the rest should go into the stabilization as well as the capital, and it spells out how much of it, of the free cash should go into capital stabilization in our document, which is on the website. But that's a different thing. That's another.
Right, we were saying we wanted to see some actual,
Yep.
you know, planned funding of going to these accounts each year, right?
Yep.
Not just if we have something left over at the end of the year, put it in there. So,
That's one of the bone of contentions I had. I had told Caplis that there was a line in the sand that I expected them to get us on track to fix it. And we were never close to that. Here we have the DOR saying we have no stabilization, we have to have it to get a bond rating. And they went through a whole budget and didn't put a dime in there. They spent every damn penny there was.
We were lucky that they did not end up passing the article to take $85,000 out of stabilization when it wasn't known what stabilization was.
Oh, yeah,
And
we
after
really
the
be up
audit
the creek
came out,
now.
it was 95, and there would have been less than $10,000 in stabilization if they had been able to take that 85 out.
But I think they're still holding that against us, and I think that's part of the reason that they're raising hell with some of our members. But that's personal.
Okay.
so those were all the budget planning recommendations, that we had talked about in
Plain
various
and
meetings
clear
in the
as
past.
that. Yeah, you're right.
Any edits we wanna make to it, any changes, additions?
Actually, if you go back and look at some of the older town reports back in the 90s, 2000, same thing has been brought up by the advisory committee, was town savings, the stabilization fund, have a plan regularly to fund it.
Okay,
You know, it's so it's
We have-
not the first time this has been brought up.
They historically
It's
spend more
not
money
been
than we bring in.
addressed.
They can't do it. They don't make it a priority.
It's been a thing to actually, you know, whether it's $2,000, $50,000,
Anything.
put something, budget some money and put it in there.
right. So it's
Same thing
it's a
with OPEB.
discipline, right.
Same thing with OPEB, is that if you show that you've got an OPEB fund and you're putting some money in, it weighs well when at least from my understanding of the bond process of getting a bond rating, it weighs well that you're actually looking at your liabilities and you've got a plan. You may not fund it some years, or you may minimal fund it, but you have a plan.
Well, this goes to the budget to actual for next meeting. But we're supposed to have $65,000 somewhere. We can't really do an OPEB until we have the actuarial study done.
Yep.
and it's a minimum of $250,000.
There's actually 125,000, 65 one year and 60 the next.
Where is that reflected in?
You asking me a question I can't answer.
That's what I mean. The mystery money.
How
Where
many
is-
years ago did they set that fund up? I mean, this is gonna come back to bite us big
Well,
time.
it was set up at a town meeting, but
Way
it was
back.
but it wasn't funded.
Yep.
Right.
Then, doing some research through the town meetings for, I forget exactly what I was looking for, but I did come up with the articles that passed or allocated OPEB monies.
Mhm.
Where that money actually was put and where it's reflected,
That found money?
I don't know. All I know is the town meeting votes are there. One of these days, if I have extra cup of coffee in the morning, I'll go back and find it again and print it out and bring it to a meeting, but I came across it and I said, So there were town meeting votes allocating this money to put
Right.
it aside, but where is it reflected? I haven't seen it.
On that last sheet, maybe we should end up, in addition to the stabilization and the general fund, is to put
Add
a
them.
OPEB plan for funding, you know,
The light company has theirs all set up. They put
Yeah.
money away.
So,
let me just give you a little bit of background, because when that account was allegedly set up,
Long time ago.
Jeff Ritter was here, and he and I had multiple conversations about that, and I said to him, I said, and he agreed, I mean, we went back and forth, and we both agreed that if we at least established a fund, whether we had money that year or not, would weigh well for bond ratings,
I think
And
it
show
was set
our
up before
intent.
that, way before that.
right? And show our intent to take and end up addressing that at some point. The following year, Markle came on, and he did set aside 65,000.
Right. So where did the other 60 come from?
That was the following year. That was in the 17 budget.
It's 68, whatever, with the transfer out of they put it in the selectmen's expense fund, and then they would supposedly transfer it out, but again, I remember that coming up at a selectmen's meeting
Yep.
we attended, that they didn't have a place to put the money, or it hadn't been
Found
done
money.
properly, or whatever, so it's, again, that vote took place, took money from here and put it in the OPEB,
Right.
but that is not reflected anywhere,
That's
because they
right.
said it hadn't been, the fund or the account had not been set up
Right.
because of A, B, and C.
Right, and you're right, they did move it into the selectmen's budget that year.
At
And
a
I,
special town meeting
Right.
in November, I believe, and then in the annual town meeting for the 17, it got voted to move it out of selectmen's expense, because there was I remember there was a little discussion we had when we were doing pre-town or getting ready for pre-town.
Yeah.
The money wasn't reflected, and they showed a check, they had used the money to pay for something, and they said the police chief's car got wrecked. They took money out of the expense account to pay for it.
Yep.
There wasn't gonna be the 68 in there to transfer out, and they sent us a copy of the insurance paycheck that they put back in
They
to
put back in.
the
The
expense
expense,
account,
yes,
so there would be enough money. I don't think there was gonna be like $600 left in the expense account after they did the
yeah,
OPEB.
right,
So that was done, but where that money is shown and reflecting in existence, I
Kinda
don't see
like
it.
The perpetual care accounts.
Yeah, it's, in the file cabinet.
Somewhere.
It's that
I,
found
I,
money.
I haven't seen it reflected in any report or accounting for,
Right.
that it's the 120 or whatever the exact amount
No, it
is,
wasn't
60,
in the
68.
management letter, it wasn't,
Yeah,
where is
it's,
Right.
You know, and Jess, he said about putting money into the filing cabinet. My first year on, I saw that one of our treasurers, our first treasurer, after Tammy left, actually put cash into a file drawer rather than,
Go to the bank.
I mean, that was where the money was kept.
So what do you want me to change this to? You said you're
Is
gonna,
the- is the
stabilization?
Just
add,
add.
no, add another one, to end up funding OPEB.
And what is that, OPEB?
OPB,
OPEB.
OPEB,
And so for
Employment-
those three funds.
right. That's the retirement liability, that's account, basically.
Let me see if it's.
Okay, all right.
Okay, next page, Paul.
Yep, next article, it's Article 4, Section 5, talks about our access to all the books of record and accounts and bills and vouchers. It says, upon request, they'll furnish our committee with facts, figures, and any other information pertaining to their several activities. So I know we had requested repeatedly access to electronic version of the budget versus actual expense reports. And we're starting to see that now, right? Is the schedule still in question? Do we need to firm that up at all?
I don't think there's a schedule per se. When they close the books, I can't remember if I went to talk to her or whatever, and she said she would have it by August 1st. My conversation with her today is, she was just finishing up some stuff, and I said, well, I was hoping to get it for this meeting, and she says she would put paper copies in. I don't, did she send electronically? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it is.
Okay,
BVA, yeah.
okay, that's good.
With a note that there was a hard copy in.
Put it in the
Okay,
mailbox,
okay.
right. So we're getting them, and getting them in this format is fine, right? The
Yeah.
PDF is okay?
Time.
But do we want to work on a set schedule, you know?
There was discussion, I didn't go to the meeting, but I watched the recording where there was some talk about
143.
143.
switching back from the quarterly to at least the monthly budget versus
Oh,
actual.
yeah, there it is.
So if we went back to at least
Yep,
monthly,
okay, good.
we would
Yeah.
probably get on a schedule. You know, what date we would get that, I don't know.
Not
If
on
it's
the
gonna be
mail
one
list.
day, if it'll be the 5th of the month, and then the next is 6th, but, and
We'll bring
and it
it.
wasn't a yes or no, but it was, we should work to getting back to, per the DOR recommendation of at least monthly budget
This
versus
is a very
actual.
interesting topic, because
Okay.
at one time,
We used to get them weekly.
it used to be weekly.
Really?
Yes.
It's a press of a button. It's.
And in the financial document that we put out, it said weekly with a roll-up monthly also. So it said some level of information was given out weekly to us as well as to the department heads to help them track their budgets.
So if this is our request for us to be able to, you know, do our role in validating the budgets, is it something we want more than monthly? Do we need it weekly?
We don't need it weekly. We need it like we meet every 2 weeks usually.
Yeah.
So if we got it twice a month, every 2 weeks, in time for our meeting, that would, work.
It's interesting because this topic came up at one of the selectmen's meetings just recently, that one of the selectmen brought up the fact that they should end up going through the budget to actual. Whether or not they will end up putting it on their agenda and talking about it, he saw it as an issue that the selectmen should be talking about and not advisory. Well, our role is looking at the finances.
Well, they should, what does it matter if they look at it too?
I don't care if they look at it, but I mean, the way it was presented is though, it was all their responsibility and we should have nothing to do with it, no input. That's,
Well,
at least,
Bring it to
that's my interpretation.
Well, I mean, again, that's the reason for
take my ball
quoting
and go
back
home.
which town bylaw
Yeah.
states what our role is, and we clearly have a responsibility here for validating all the account.
What bothered me was I had heard a comment that Carter had to approve it before it could be given out. Why should anybody have to approve it? It is what it is. Either the figures are right or they're not. They should press a button, it should spit out of the machine, and the copy should go to each one of us. If the selectmen want a copy, they're more than welcome.
Well, one of the things about the budget to actual is that not everything might be in the time that they do it, because
Right, if they don't
there is a
capture it.
lapse in
Right.
putting data
Well,
in.
that's understandable, but I
and it
mean,
takes-
Sure.
But at least it gives a time frame that somebody can look back and say, okay, at this particular date, this is where we are.
So what is the request then? Do we want it every 2 weeks? Or is monthly gonna be enough, and we'll work with them to come up with a set schedule for that?
At least monthly
How
would
about-
be.
at least that, oh, God, yeah.
At least monthly?
At least monthly.
Mm.
Okay,
So, I mean, we should have
We should probably put a,
July's for
yeah.
2018 right now.
we should probably
Right.
put in there a date that is due.
well, that's what I'm saying, let's agree what that schedule is. And we understand there may be some lag, some invoices don't get posted, you know, prior to that published date, but
How does this sound? Within the second week of the month, we should be able to have that.
The
Okay.
previous months.
The
For the
previous
previous
month should be,
Right.
Yeah.
okay, so,
so that's a set schedule. That says, hey, you got, even if it's one day in that first week, it should be available by the end of the next week.
so by the end of the second week of the month for the prior
Right.
month.
And so
Right.
they don't have any help.
Prior month. Okay.
Okay?
Yep, and
So-
then we also requested providing accounting detail upon request in electronic format.
That's
Right.
how it should be given to us.
That
But
just
we're
sounds
getting it in
weird.
paper, we're not getting those in.
Well, we just got the BVA electronically.
Right.
That was just sent to us.
But that was
Today.
the budget, yeah, the BVA.
Right.
But we're talking about any accounting detail that we wanna see.
One of the complaints that the, and I don't understand because it's public information, is that the accountant said that anytime that we got it, any information by getting a electronic format of the general ledger, it appeared on the blog, and she was upset about that for whatever reason.
All right, well, if something's public record,
Well, maybe,
does she
may-
want?
and I can't say it shouldn't be there, it should, but it should, if we're gonna ask for it
Yeah,
and we get it, it shouldn't be public record until after we have looked at it. So
okay,
those people that go on the blog, I'd like to recommend that it would be after we look at it.
I think
That would,
pretty much
that would
everything
probably
we
stop
do.
some of the contention, and maybe we could continue to get it so that we can at least discuss it at a meeting electronically.
All emails are public record. As soon as I get an email in my mail, it's like getting something in my mailbox at the house, it belongs to me. It belongs to you, it belongs, you get something in your mailbox from the post office, it belongs to you. You open it up and,
And if somebody if the state wants to come in and look at all my emails, they can.
so,
they need a subpoena, Beth.
Yeah, I know, I'll make sure they get a piece of paper first.
They need a
but we are
subpoena.
getting the stuff
Okay.
electronically again.
Hopefully it'll continue.
Cross your fingers
My
and
name's not in the group.
she got left off.
Her name-
I think I did too,
I just looked at, you didn't get the? budget?
BVA.
All right,
It was at
so,
one
was at-
forty,
right. So
Three.
I've got, Beverly, oh, they're still sending it to Gordon, he must be thrilled. Jeff Bennett, me, they're giving it to Kate, Fulton, Paul Grubb, Wilfred Spring, and then the selectmen. So,
I can take care of that.
yeah,
I've got the new members list that I just put our new email on,
yeah,
and I will end up sending that to the accountant, as well as, I will end up copying all the departments. They wanna send us something, here we are, folks. Here's our emails, here's our telephone numbers.
Yeah, cause I got my, I got the budget versus actual to my Comcast versus
Okay,
my Outlook account. Even though we filled out that sheet and you sent it in as the updated email list.
okay. I didn't
Change comes
include,
slow.
Government.
I didn't include the accountant because I thought the selectmen would follow that. They wanted the list, I figured they got it, they would disseminate it. Well, it didn't happen.
Oh, no.
You were assuming things.
I assumed the wrong thing.
Above
From
our
now
pay
on,
grade.
from now on, I'm gonna take and send it to everybody and they can end up doing what they want. It's better to take and send more email than less.
So, what is a reasonable timeframe, turnaround time? If we want accounting detail behind, the budget versus actual data, how soon, should we expect to be able to get that?
By the second week, we should be, of the previous month, we should be getting a budget to actual. by
Yeah,
end
but
of
the
that
budget
month.
to actual, I'm just saying, if we've got questions and we
We
need
should be able
follow-up
to- Oh, okay.
documentation.
Now,
By our
once we
next
get it,
meeting.
Yeah,
we'll review it at that next meeting, which is timely.
Mhm.
We might come up with questions about that. That should be available at our first meeting the following month.
well, why don't we just state, when we request it, we expect to get it within, 5 business days or something
Yeah.
like that.
Okay?
Well, would that be reasonable?
That'd be
Just
more
Would be less?
reasonable. It should be, it's like asking for the general ledger printout of any fund. Again, when the BVA used to go out, budget versus actual used to go out, be available weekly. You looked at that, a department head looked at that and goes, that doesn't jive with my in-house book.
Yeah,
The accountant would send out, you could get a general ledger printout like that.
okay.
I mean, it didn't take 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It was, here you go.
Okay.
Oh, okay, there's my,
Five
there's
bus-
what's missing.
You're right, 5 business days after they get the request.
5 business days.
Yeah, I figure Mrs. Richards used to run the town with a typewriter.
Yeah, I
Didn't
know.
have a machine.
Okay. Now, an alternative that we've discussed with them in the past was give us read access to the financial system.
I don't think they're gonna do that.
That's not gonna happen,
Because of cost, they said cost of a license.
right?
So, I mean, how much? How much is that? Let's have a bake sale for, we can, we can buy it ourselves. and
My understanding is between $700 to $800
Still,
minimum.
if it's
We
gonna
should
give us
budget for it
access,
next
immediate
year.
access to it, is that a per year, you're saying?
Yes.
It sounds.
Put it in the budget next year.
Yeah,
we'll put it
but
in
I was
the
gonna
budget.
say, for the, financial committee, that would seem to be a reasonable expense.
Yeah,
I'm
That's
just,
That's something that we can put in the expenses if everybody wants, they can
You'll
do
get
that.
snacks and coffee.
I don't want stacks and coffee. Yeah, I know, sorry.
well, I'll list it as an alternative, to,
Yes.
giving it to us, these electronic information on request,
Yep.
will give us read access.
Yep,
Put it on the
okay.
budget,
Okay.
all right?
Yep.
And then the final one was, section 6. It's the duty of the advisory committee to make an annual report of its doings and recommendations relative to financial matters in town business. So this is the ongoing back and forth that you've been having with Carter. The advisory committee's report is a public document, not subject to editing by anyone other than the public body from which it is being issued. In FY 16 edited version was the example that you've used.
Yep.
If they need, for space constraint or cost constraints, to, limit the size of it, then it's still up to us to make those edits, not
Right.
anybody else.
Well, I mean, I would've, this is probably a bad assumption. If they're going to edit any department's annual report, they should go to the department and say, can you end up reducing this because of budget constraints or whatever?
Right.
And have some level of the dialogue. The reason it was so long, and it wasn't our fault, was the number of end-of-year transfers. It was unbelievable about the amount of transfers, and we had to look at a couple of times.
There's a history that isn't maybe important today, but 20 years from now, 25 years from now, buddy that's probably related to me will sit down and say, what the hell did they do back then? At least they'll know. And that is important, because I can look back 20 years and find out what they were doing, and that's important.
Well, I was surprised that when-
history,
at
and
the,
that-
the selectmen's meeting, one of the persons that were on the advisory board said it was only one page.
Oh, yeah,
And it
well,
was funny that when you looked up in 2006, and he was chairman, it was, the report was 3 pages. And it did not contain any end-of-year transfers. None.
bad
Zippo.
memory. Hey, what are you gonna do?
I anticipate that this coming year, based upon the amount of end-of-year transfers, because we didn't have that many, it will be most 2.5 pages, at most.
I
And
think
that would be if we decided to put a lot of verbiage in beside the charts.
You know, it was just something to pick at. That's all it was, so don't get upset
Well,
about
they've
it.
reduced the number of printed copies that they make because of cost, which makes sense, because most people look at it online.
I was gonna say,
Right.
that's where it
It
should
could be
be.
1,000 pages long if it's online,
Exactly.
okay?
Yeah.
Really,
This is
what are
just,
you talking about?
this is harassment, kinda, in a roundabout
Well,
way.
some communities limited how many they end up printing. They only print a certain amount, and all the rest of it is online.
They don't put in
We
what
do it
people
here.
make anymore for pays, which should be there because people pay the bills. They've eliminated a lot of things that should be in that book. So transparent, not,
Yeah, but that's not our decision to make.
no,
Right,
But it is our decision what our report should look like,
yes.
so. It could be 1,000 pages long. If it's electronic, it doesn't matter.
Mm.
It's not gonna cost
Right.
anymore.
If they limit the amount of hard copies,
Right.
probably a better method than they can end up editing everybody's.
Well, they do.
Yeah.
They do limit the amount of copies.
Yeah,
it's
cut
just,
back,
it's just
Yeah.
harassment, that's all.
because they used to have boxes of them left over.
Right,
Oh, they're expensive now, too, really.
Yep.
Print.
right.
I think they're having them printed up by Monty Tech or some outside firm,
Oh,
the last one.
I'm surprised they're not still being done at, Athol, Daily News and Highland Press. They were doing almost, 150 of the town reports for the towns.
For Athol?
A number of years ago, they were doing like, it said 150 different towns.
Oh,
That's-
really?
Oh, yeah, they were the number 1 spot in the
Adams
state,
Printing went away, so they couldn't do it there.
but they were
They fell
doing,
apart when they did it.
they were
anyway.
doing them all.
Any other inputs on this?
No, it sounds good.
Okay.
So
What are
what's
we gonna
next
do
step?
with it?
What are we gonna do with it?
Next step, and I bring this up, and I thank Paul for going through the effort here.
Good job, Paul.
Yeah.
Supposedly, we are, and this, we'll bring it up on the new business. We were supposed to get invited to their workshop in September. This may be a good time to make that as a presentation and a discussion at the workshop.
If they allow us to discuss.
I am not going to a workshop
Are
and
we gonna
sit
be
there
allowed
and
to
listen to
speak?
them.
Supposedly, we're getting an invitation, folks. I can only tell you that.
Is it gonna be coffee and snacks?
It's not in my budget.
So I would presume that we can probably end up doing it at that time, that particular time.
So is that a motion that we will request it?
If you wanna make it as a motion, Paul, I'll look,
Yep, and I'll second it.
Okay.
we have a motion to end up bringing Paul's presentation, or have him make the presentation at the workshop meeting with the selectmen in September. I believe that, I can't remember the date, I'd have to look at the. And I have a second. Any discussion? Okay. Darlene,
Yes.
Bev,
Yes.
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. Thank you, folks.
105.
You're welcome.
Okay, I sent out I committed to end up sending everybody a list of towns the same size as us. I sent this folder to you. This is off the Department of Revenue, DLS. I have a copy here, so there's a lot of good information that you can glean and put your community against another one. Now, if you wanna take it, end up getting different communities, and you wanna do just Worcester County, I have one of those also. I did it, I didn't send it out to everybody.
I don't think I got that.
Huh?
I don't think I got that.
No, I didn't send that out. Oh, you didn't get this?
Right.
Okay. But this list of communities, and it has interesting information because it has the tax rate on it, it has revenue sources, your tax levy, values of assessment, what we spend generally, outstanding receivables, spending functions, other functions, and then also at the very end, it has Moody's and Standard & Poor's bond ratings.
Is there anybody else without one but us?
So if anybody didn't get it, other than Jeff,
I didn't get it either, so,
and I will send that out.
okay.
I will resend that out. Everybody else get it?
I didn't get it.
Okay.
Why don't you just resend it to,
Okay, resend it all?
yeah.
Okay.
And that was called what again?
This is 18 communities from the community comparison
You
report.
got, like, the Hamilton town budget and sources of funding?
This is
That way-
community-
No, those are those are.
Community
reports.
comparison
okay.
report.
Comparison report.
Okay, thank you.
And it has 18 records on it. And the criteria that I used was 7,500 to 8,500, and we're right in the middle at about a little over 8,000. It shows us as 8134,
That's population.
population.
Records saying-
There's other criteria you could end up using too, but I didn't. Okay. The formats, I sent a number of formats, I hope everybody got those. I have, out of that list of 18 communities, 7 of them I found formats for. The town of, let's see, Air, Georgetown, Hamilton, Millis, Montague, Shirley, and Upton. I also sent out some additional ones from Westminster, Shrewsbury, Athol, Leicester, and I didn't send out Littleton. But Littleton's was part of their annual report, but I do have their particular section, and their particular section is 20 pages. And in most of these, you will see graphs or whatever. My estimation, okay, and this is just my estimation, is the one that Leicester put out in their kickoff meeting had a lot of good information on it and very straightforward. I don't know if everybody got that, or they,
I have Lester.
Hang on, let me look.
There was one with an attachment that had like 7,
Yeah, it
and then
had
there
that.
was a separate one that had just
Here
one.
it is, I think. Rolling right along.
another good one that I saw
Oh, you got that.
that was on the smaller side also was the town of Hamilton. They didn't have an up-to-dated one for 16. But this one, this here one was the FY 18. They actually did a comparison of FY 18. And what I liked about it was the fact that they showed 15 versus 16 expenditures, local receipts, free cash, revenue, debt,
Which one's he talking about?
et cetera. And they had nice
He
pie
just-
charts,
He's skipping around.
and they showed revenues, local receipts for the last 14, 15, and 16. They didn't have 17 on here, but they graphed it. Local revenues, they
Talking about,
graphed.
Will? Which one?
This is from Leicester.
Lester?
Yeah. I mean, so we have a
Finding it.
multitude of suggestions. Most of the ones I saw that I thought were good had some verbiage, but they also had charts. And some communities, such as Westminster, did a comparison of communities locally to them. They have a long report because they put their whole warrant on here, but the first part of it, if you had just had that as a report, the first 14 pages had graphs, et cetera. They had such things as single-family tax bills, percentage increase on the average family tax, family home present increase by year on the average single-family home. They did comparisons of communities around them: Princeton, Lunenburg, Westminster, Hubbardston, Leominster, Ashburnham, Gardner, Fitchburg. They gave the population of those communities, their tax rate, their average tax bill.
I think he's
I mean,
looking at Westminster's.
We got a variety of things that are available for information from the DOR that you can end up
Some towns
charting
are
differently.
some towns are the same size as us.
Yep.
But a lot of them have got more industry and more businesses than we do. That's the thing that makes the
Well,
difference.
one of the things I was surprised at is that the comparison of communities the same size as us, everybody keeps saying we have the lowest tax rate.
No, we don't.
There's communities that have lower tax rates. One community that I saw, it wasn't in the 18, had a tax rate of $13 a thousand. And it wasn't a small community either.
Let's see, on those, Will, I was gonna say, I like the, you pointed out the Hamilton. That's the one that struck me as the, let's say, most user-friendly.
Uh-huh.
Just, looking at it, thinking of people sitting at the town meeting or prior to the town meeting, flipping through. It was, rather simple, and short. A lot of them I saw just had, too much information, I think, for, let's say, I think a lot of them would be just put aside. Cause it's just, spreadsheets. And I think that just, becomes a blur to a lot of folks.
Some spreadsheets are okay if they're followed as an example of, just to take and show trends. You have a spreadsheet, but you show a graph putting those trends on. Pie charts are very effective. And breaking out different stuff into different categories is usually quite good.
Yeah.
If they
I
were
mean-
pushing when they pushed the school, if they had showed people the projections for the future that the state had sent us, with everything going downhill, that would have made a difference. But of course, they're not gonna do that because it's not a positive outlook. Realistic it is, but not, you know?
I know that was a lot that I sent out, and I didn't expect that we would end up actually coming up with a format for this evening. It was something that we could end up looking at it for this meeting, having a discussion, and probably looking at it at the next meeting or the following meeting, is to take and refine it as to what we want. Is to take and look at all of them and say, okay, I like this out of this budget, or this particular presentation, let's do something similar to that. The town of Shirley ended up doing a very simplified one. But if you look at it per se, they did some simple wording, but I'm sure somebody had to stand there and describe what that meant. There was very little graphs,
It looks more like a PowerPoint.
but they did have some stuff about declined service increases, which they actually came out and said, no, we're not gonna get an additional they don't recommend getting an additional police officer.
Well, they had Fort Devens for years, so with that, with that, all those people gone, it changed the complexion of their town drastically. They probably needed more police when they had half the army there. Now that whole thing's gone, they had to go backwards instead of forward. More than likely.
Mr. Chairman, one thing with
Yes.
regards to the report, I know it's been discussed, it was discussed, brought up last meeting, and I believe in the past it had been discussed about sending this out and how we would get this to the people. I've been in contact with the post office, I'm investigating the cost and what has to be done for a bulk mailing permit. And there's several options to how to do that. And I'm waiting to hear back from the postal service. If it's not gigantic money, I'm probably gonna do that myself, and then we could utilize that to send out a document if we so choose to do that.
Yep.
I'm waiting to hear back, the technicalities from the post office, because there are different options on how you can send things out, the procedures for doing it. One thing is to you get like pre-canceled stamps but then you have to go to the post office and there's additional pay involved, and then another option is like a prepaid thing, and with a stamp, but I'm just have to talk with the post office and answer some questions on, for instance, is it nonprofit, is it this, is that, the options I'm gonna go on, so.
Yep.
And I'm also looking into printing cost, what that would involve, to try to get to bring like a dollar figure, and a number. There was a minimum with the bulk, mailing rate, a minimum of 500, which is the number that I gave off the top of my head. How many would you be mailing? And I said, I was trying to think of how many people like show up at town meeting, and I just threw 500 out there. But, well, again, when I have the information, I'll bring it back to the committee at a later date, but that's one thing I'm looking into.
One of the things I wanna take a note, there's at least 2 or 3 communities on the ones that I sent out that have this, please bring this booklet with you to the annual town meeting. In other words, it's on their website.
Yep.
Now, that presents a problem for those people that do not have internet access or a computer.
Or don't do it, because there are people out there that just don't do them.
Right. There are some communities that actually, their advisory committee puts out a survey on different stuff. That's a possibility. Also, you send out a survey early enough to find out what the percentage of folks are that have internet access that attend the annual meeting.
I had a resident talk to me today about the article that the lady from the Gardner News wrote last week. And he was really excited about the fact that we had talked about letting people, make them aware of what the town owes before they vote on something, the things that we had talked about, so that they are more informed before they make a decision. And he was happy with that. And I think that if they feel more included by giving them the information ahead of time, maybe they'll feel better about going to town meeting. You know, when we voted for the police station, everyone knew it was gonna be 2-year debt exclusion, and it was gonna come off. Well, all of a sudden, it came up again at the town meeting to be revoted, and,
Well, it was the way it was written up.
It's,
The summary said 2 years.
Yep.
The
The
actual
article
warrant article
did
did
not.
not specify how many years.
yep. So I think that I've learned something from that. You know, you gotta make sure your warrant article's clear. But people need to know what is coming ahead of them so that they don't blow it off and then find out too late they should have gone.
That might be something to put on your thing, Paul, is the clearer definition of warrant, debt exclusions, or debt, the length of time should be stated in the article.
Yep. Because then they can't do a bait and switch.
I was always told that they couldn't put the length of time in the article, that they could not put the length of time.
They couldn't?
But the only reason people voted for it was they thought it was gonna go off in 2 years.
Well, we can at least have a discussion on it.
USDA
Yeah,
give
well,
up.
it would be good, I could be wrong, so maybe the law has changed. They had the Municipal Modernization Act, who knows what's on board now.
Better definition of warrant articles
Yep.
to include duration. Loan durations?
Yep.
Okay.
Because if they thought it was just the same thing over again, they're not gonna make an attempt to show up. They find out that all of a sudden it's not what they thought it was gonna be, that may make a big difference.
So everybody has these
Yeah,
formats.
good job, Will. It's a lot of work.
I would say that we look at them. We've got another couple weeks before our next meeting. And to take different things out of it that you wanna take end up seeing in our format.
Seems most of them include the regional school assessments.
Yes,
Yeah.
they do break down the school
Yeah,
assessment.
It's not just me.
Do we wanna just leave that open-ended, or do we wanna have a motion that we would have further discuss?
Just make it an agenda item, but
Just make an agenda item?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
To make recommendation, okay, as an agenda item at the next meeting?
yeah.
Okay.
I like this expense reductions, job consolidation, reduction in hours.
Okay. Any other discussion on the formats or whatever right now? Okay, moving on.
Continue to wean off, no,
Discussion and action on,
I know it.
the selectmen survey. This is due by September 1st, so we have this meeting to discuss it, formulate what or how we want to approach this. I'll open up the discussion to that, and we'll go from there.
Who all
Aye.
got this?
Pardon me?
Who got the survey?
Who got it?
Right.
It was sent out to everybody.
To all departments?
No, it was,
Who
it
was it
looks
sent
like it was just sent out to, us and the selectmen. I would have to look at the original email, but and I think I included the original email when I sent it out.
Look it up. And that would have been under advisory board, right?
Yeah, the advisory.
The old one.
No, it was under the new email. She sent it out,
Wouldn't have got it.
and I
Okay.
took it, I sent that out. I can't remember if I just took the survey and attached it as an
I
agenda.
think Holly sent it.
Yeah.
Right, Holly did send it.
All right.
She sent it on July 24th. Went to the advisory committee. And members
Selectmen.
of the select board, yeah.
Anybody want to start off the discussion, or I can start off the
Well-
discussion? I do have some things I listed on here.
I'm gonna recuse myself from this because I'm just gonna say that.
Okay.
Small setup.
Yep, me too, because you know what, they ain't gonna like what I wrote.
One of the things I was thinking about is that we can talk about some of these today and have somebody compile all our inputs for one input from the advisory committee.
Is it supposed to be just one response from the advisory committee, or individuals respond?
It was sent to all of us, but I took it as, whereas an advisory committee, we can discuss it, and we might have a consensus on what we want to take it end up. Because that would end up, to me, as an example, is that prioritizing the different departments. If we all did it, they could be all over the place.
I say, I mean, from just my personal thoughts on this, I agree that the priorities, have value for, let's say, us and them, but as far as list the three major accomplishments of the board over the last year, I got no input on, the how to be more effective. I kind of feel like I've stated that to them on more than one occasion. So, I mean, a lot of these first ones here, I don't really see the point, myself, just because, they don't seem to, accept the information.
Let me just say, the first one, major accomplishments of the board, I was still thinking about what I saw as major accomplishments. How can the board be more effective? I believe that when a citizen asks a question, that they can end up asking a particular question, that they can end up letting us know what the community know, what the options are for getting a permanent TA. And when I brought that up, I was surprised at the reaction I got. Number one is the comment from the interim TA telling me that if I wanted to end up knowing that information, I should become a selectman, which some people thought that was out of line. And then for a selectman to rant on, I don't know if everybody saw the meeting, but it went on. And then end up being told by a selectman, I'll share those with you. After he came out of the executive session, I was told they're confidential. But yet we had a conversation Monday about the options, and they still didn't get into all the options available. They either didn't have any options, which, okay, that's okay to say that. But to me, options would have been okay, we're gonna go with Winchendon number one, to see what we can share. Number two, we're going to end up looking at still looking at a permanent TA, go that option. Number three would be that the selectmen, like a lot of communities have done, that will pick up the slack until we get a permanent TA. That could have been an option. I mean, there could have been other options. I know that there's at least one or two other communities that just lost their administrator. It doesn't always have to be Winchendon. The town of Hubbardston just lost their administrator. Are they interested in having a joint? Of course, we would pick up the lion's share of that because they're a smaller community. I mean, to me, those would have been options that would have made the community members feel much better, is that, okay, we're not putting all our eggs into one basket, and that we have options as a community, and our selectmen are willing to take it, end up making them transparent to all of us. And that's what I mean by that. The next item is for the 5-year goal, I says, a permanent full-time TA. Balanced budget. Establish financial policies and stabilization policy. That they work with us, with our inputs on. I mean, those are just, off the top of my head, those were some things. That was the 1 year. The 5-year is establish stabilization to the 5 or 10% level. Fund the capital stabilization. Start to put some fund in there. I think and you have it in your presentation. Establish a 5-year plan, or it could be a 3 or 5-year plan with our help. Other communities, they do projections based upon their numbers. Item number 5, I looked at the first option that was offer a full range of services to the community desires, even if it's the barest minimum levels. In other words, that we could reduce the amount of hours, provided the services are there. Other communities have done that. These are just some things that I popped out. And then I prioritize the finance department as administration and finances is the number one. Without the finances coming in, you don't have a community that you can end up doing anything else with. From then on, it just, public safety was the other one. And then I rated them going down there. The last one is, I didn't put anything on, I spent about 10 minutes thinking about this afternoon, so those are some inputs that I think. But I believe that we, as a committee, could pull together our consensus on these things and come up with some good ideas from all of us and make a submittal from the advisory committee. I don't know what everybody else thinks, but that's my input.
So you're saying we'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting, that we'll all come in with our inputs and see if we can come to a consensus?
Yeah, I was hoping everybody would come in with something today.
I mean, I've got some thoughts too, but I don't think we're gonna
Just-
get
just
there
as-
today.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Paul.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just as one thing, on number 5, I read that, I guess completely different than you did. Because I read it says offer a full range of services the community desires, even at the barest minimum levels. I basically took that as, we have an open office, but it doesn't function. Kind of thing. We have a department, but it's so, insignificantly funded that it can't do anything. I'd rather have myself, the way I looked at this, again, is when it says offer a lesser range of services, but do so at a level where the staff is supported with appropriate professional development, materials and equipment, and the facilities are well-maintained and operating within the useful lifespans, as a much better goal.
Right.
To actually offer something to the taxpayer that functions.
When I saw
as it
Barris
should.
minimum levels,
Yeah.
I was thinking hours.
Yeah,
You fund them, as an example, you fund the assessor's office, and maybe it's not 38 hours, it's 32 hours.
Mhm.
That's a minimum to me.
No, I
But you
get,
still have an open office. The number of days it's open, instead of 4 days, it may be 3 days. I mean, I'm just tossing that out.
right.
But I looked at the other one and said, ideally, I would like to take and see them do that, but can we afford to do that?
If we don't do this too much, that's the,
Right.
I think that's what they're trying to
Because
do,
I
eliminate
see some
things
things
rather
coming down the pike.
Hmm.
Like, if we're gonna continue ALS, we're going to have to increase the budget this next year, without a doubt, without doing anything, because we have to bring on a second shift automatically, because we did it in this budget in 18, and in the 19 budget, you're gonna have to do a whole shift, which is another, I think comes out to about 150,000. And the following year, you're going to have to bring on 2 shifts. So you have a 3-shift operation, which is 7 days a week, at another $150,000. So you're looking at potentially an increase in the budget of 400,000 without the school going up, without retirement going up, without health insurance going up. And I'm saying, I want the ticket to end up giving our community the best service that we can, but can we afford it with all these other things? There's gotta be some hard decisions made by the community as to what we wanna do. If we want ALS, then we're gonna have to cut somewhere. And maybe it's reduce the hours at town hall. Spencer went through that. They cut it down, I believe it's down to 30 hours or less. And the last time I read it, and this was 6 months ago, they were trying to take it, end up in the 18 budget, is bringing their level of service up more hours. I don't know, I'm just, that's how I viewed it.
Yep.
I'm sure everybody has a different approach to this.
We may not come to consensus. If we're gonna have 2 members abstain and, the rest of us can't come to a consensus, then we're not gonna be able to provide any input. For example,
Nobody's gonna listen anyway.
I may recommend that, I think they need to look at more shared services, like TAs. Why limit it there, you know? Look at expanding regionalization of schools, you know? There are other opportunities. Why are we limiting ourselves like that, so?
And I don't throw that out as regionalization of schools per se. The question is can we come to an agreement with another school district, other than Phillipston?
Mhm.
Winchendon is all on their own. They may be interested in regionalization, but they already have a brand-new high school. Are they gonna wanna do that? I don't know. I know Athol, I believe it's Athol Royalston. And I don't know if they're expanding. I know they just put in a new a new elementary school. And the reason I know that is because like I've told you in the past, my son lives there. They're looking at a new a new high school in addition to the elementary. Can that town afford it? I don't know. They're gonna have to answer that. So are they gonna be wanting to regionalize? I don't know.
June 8th, there were 65 empty houses in town, not counting the 7 that have been burned. And every week, you look in the Garden and News, and there are more foreclosures.
I believe we can come to consensus on most of this, Paul.
Okay.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I think we can.
All right, so it's due on the 1st. We're going to prepare our input and review at the next meeting and come up with a consensus for one document from the advisory committee. Put that on the next agenda item.
Everybody want to take it into one input or individual inputs? I mean, that was my suggestion, but I mean,
Well, I don't, as you can see, I do a lot of listening and not a lot of speaking. My concerns are that I wouldn't be able really to accomplish much of this, being so new to the town and to the politics and to a lot of things, that I would prefer to contribute along with you, not.
To make it a
not- Yeah, I don't wanna do
committee.
an individual one, because in all honesty, you know, it would be hard for me, because I don't have anything in my memory banks to say they need to correct, because I haven't been here all that long.
They should have sent this to the community, to the taxpayers.
no, this is basically for them to take it, end up working with us, I guess. Anybody else want to weigh in, or committee or
And then,
individually?
and if there's something in there that somebody doesn't agree with, maybe you could just, you know, put that in parentheses, you know, that,
Right.
you know, 4 out of 7 agreed to this one and 3 did not. You don't have to name the people, but you could probably say, you know, agreed upon by 5 out of 7, agreed upon by 7 out of 7. You know, give them an
Yeah.
idea of why, you know.
Along the lines with our recommendations at town meeting, it's like, you know, 4 for and 3 against, or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still one document, but you could break it out that way.
I wonder if they sent one to everybody, to all the other departments.
They didn't.
They didn't.
Okay, so we're going to go into depth on this at our next meeting.
All right.
I guess we can attempt it.
And we're gonna make it as a committee.
Right.
Okay. I'll put that as an agenda item for the next time also. Any other discussion on this? Okay. Next agenda item is the discussion and advisory committee webpage. You wanna take and end up getting, Julie, they can come back in,
Oh, I'll get,
cause she's one of the administrators that is listed to help, to work on their webpage. Just to bring you up to speed, is we're going to compile the thing as a committee and do recommendations to those items, as far as the selectmen survey, is pretty well like we do for, the town warrant. If there's a minor thought on on an input, then we'll list it as a minor. It'll be 6-4, 2 against, or two that had a different opinion.
Are you voting on this now?
No, at the next meeting,
Okay.
okay? Next agenda item is, this is why I called you back in, is
Yeah.
discuss advisory committee webpage. I don't know if everybody's looked at the webpage. I just attended some training sessions, as I told everybody. I passed that on to Julie. There's some training sessions coming up next month. And the reason I brought this up is I wanted to make sure that everybody understood it, to look at it. And maybe we can discuss it over a period of time, but the website is remove all past goals and recommendations for special and annual town meetings. I mean, we don't need to have some, goals that we talked about in 13 on there versus now. They don't go away, they just don't get put up on the webpage. We should download the stabilization fund policy, which we've actually voted on, the emergency reserve policy and end of the year policy, and put those on as well as the documents. And this last part is I'd like to have everybody take a look at the website and to review other items that you think should be removed or that should be retained. So that we have that for the next meeting. But those things, as far as goals and recommendations for special town meetings, we probably should move ahead and start to take those off. And that, once we go through the training, you'll see,
Okay.
it should be easy to take it into.
I still have to make sure my username works to access the site. Is that what you need for the training?
No, for the training, you'll end up actually going on, they actually give you a telephone number
Yeah,
to call in for the voice,
yeah,
and then she gives you a website. Once you do the telephone call in,
yeah,
there's they send out a code once you sign up for it,
yeah. So
and
it's
you
like
put the code
GoToMeeting.
in, so now you're connected.
Okay,
The next thing that they end up doing is they give you the website, and you go to that particular website, and she gives you a code for that also, and it brings up her screen, and she shows you what, you sit there and
okay.
you can end up having some dialogue as to what she's doing.
Okay, so there's beginner and advanced, right?
Yep.
All right, so I will start at beginner. And
In
then-
fact, I'm gonna be signing up for those again, because my question to her was, Holly only brought the editing portion up, and there was at least 1 or 2 other tabs, and she basically said that you need to take and talk to the administrator, and I haven't talked to Holly about that.
There's a lot of old stuff on this thing, yeah. 2013,
Yeah, so.
Yep.
You know, I'll do the training. I'm not sure which day yet. I have to look at that email again.
Okay,
I was looking at, I think, the 10th, which is next Thursday?
I believe so, yeah.
All right. Looked like it was a 2-hour training?
Pardon me?
A 2-hour training?
Half hour.
Oh, a half hour. Oh,
Half hour each
God, That's
session.
easy. All right, yeah, no problem. All right, but you need to figure out from Holly if you can get the right tabs to work.
Yeah, I gotta take and work with her on that,
All right. Yeah, I think it's just a permission thing.
okay? Okay? Any questions on the webpage? Is the thing that I'm hoping everybody does is they look at the webpage.
Yep.
And come up with some suggestions as to, maybe you want something else on there also.
I'm looking at the web page right now for the advisory committee, and the things I see, and it's been one of my little pet things that I like to bitch about. It has advisory committee, but then on the left under the links, it has advisory board,
Yeah.
contact information. It says email the advisory committee. Then it said email the advisory board on their page. Our bylaw has, it's the Templeton Advisory Committee. Mass General Law, Chapter 39, Section 16, is there will be a finance committee, a warrant committee, or an advisory committee.
Committee.
I don't know how, and we're not the only town that has that out there, how it ever morphed into an advisory board versus a committee.
Beats me.
But it's, if the bylaw says we have an advisory committee and the state law says we have an advisory committee, it should not be
Board.
advisory committee and advisory board on our website.
Right.
It just kinda goes to clarity, believability,
Let me just say this,
whatever.
when it got set up, I had no involvement in setting
Oh,
it up.
like I said, I don't know how ever, the name ever morphed into the advisory board. I think the town of Ashburnham has an advisory board. It's, like I said, we're not the only town that this has happened to, but where our bylaw says we have an advisory committee, and the Mass General Law says there shall be either a finance committee, a warrant committee, or an advisory committee. I don't think we should have advisory board on our website. Certainly, we shouldn't have advisory committee and advisory board. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's, if we could just get that changed, all that changed, so it says one thing, advisory committee. Cause you go to boards and committees, and the first thing you see is advisory committee. Then you you go to our website, and it's got advisory committee, advisory board. Well, which the hell are you people?
Another
Not only
piece of
that,
things.
but you always refer to the selectmen as the board. So I think that it differentiates us, not
Mhm.
using the word board as well.
One of the things I do know is the Association of Town Finance Committees uses town finance committee, advisory committee, and warrant committee all as one type of committee that do the same function. The town of Athol, in their report, which I did find, and I think I have it somewhere, they call themselves the Finance and Warrant Committees. They still do the same functions as we do. So that we probably have to take and end up changing that also. Good input. Okay? Anything else on the webpage until the next meeting?
No, I think I'll take the time to.
Just peruse it and come up with some stuff that you wanna take and put on or take off, other than the ones I mentioned. Okay, let's start off with the open meeting law documents. The first one is, I sent this out to everybody, request for extension to respond to complaint. Was sent out by Bob. It was granted till Wednesday, the 16th. So, we're not under the gun of having to take and end up issuing that tonight. But we should vote on it so we can issue, so that the two individuals can issue those. First one I'm gonna end up taking, it'll be an old one, will be the one dated June 15th. The response from one of our members that created a response that we delegated to, was dated June 28th. Everybody should have a copy of that.
Oh, July 28th?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion to accept this as a response to be submitted to the Attorney General and the Selectmen, along with accompanying documentation to the Attorney General, et cetera.
What I did with this is I put hyperlinks for the documentation. So those are clickable links so
Yep.
that I could just send this, once it's approved,
Yep.
to everyone electronically, so it wasn't this big, huge file of stuff that we're shipping off.
Yep.
Did everyone get an electronic copy of this?
Pardon me?
Everyone got an electronic
Yes.
copy of this as
Yes.
well. So you can click on the links and read it, and
So like I said, I'll accept the motion to accept this and then issue this as Selectmen and the Attorney General.
I'll make a motion to accept this response and send it out to the Attorney General and the appropriate parties.
I have a second.
Second,
Any discussion?
This is for the June 15th.
Yes, this is for the June 15th one.
Okay. To the selectmen and the AG.
Right. Seeing and hearing none. Darlene,
Yes.
pardon me?
Yes,
Okay, I'm sorry.
that's okay.
My ears are blocked today. You're gonna have to take and yell out a little bit. Bev?
yes.
Julie?
yes,
Paul?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Okay. As chairperson, I'd like to take and end up having the individual that wrote up the thing issue these out to the selectmen and the AG.
yeah. I think I have to do the town clerk too.
Oh, town clerk also?
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. I will get that done
Okay.
when I get home.
The next one is dated August 2nd. And this is for the one that we have dated June 17th. I'll entertain a motion on this.
It's before, it's Bennett,
Bennett,
this
Okay.
one.
okay.
I make a motion that we use this to reply to respond to the alleged violation of the open meeting law.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none? Darlene,
Yes.
thank you. Bev,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes,
Paul,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
I thought you'd say yes, you wrote it, and I'll say yes. Okay, thank you.
I gotta call up the Pony Express.
We received another one, an email dated the 27th.
That's one I couldn't open.
I'm hoping that we have some response, and here's
it's in the packet.
for this evening, and here's the reason why. It was sent to us on July 27th. Okay, gotta look at the calendar here. So starting the July 27th would be the first day. The 14th day, it falls on the 15th, which is before our meeting. So we actually have to respond to this, and let me just read again what we can end up doing. Instruction for a public body that receives the complaint. The chair must disseminate, which everybody has. The public body must meet to review the complaint within 14 business days, which we're doing. After review, but within 14 business days, the public body must respond to the complaint in writing and must send the Attorney General a copy of the complaint and the description of any action of the public body has taken to address it. At the same time, the body must send the complainant a copy of the response. The public body may designate this responsibility to its counsel or staff member, but only after it has met to review the complaint. If the public body requests more time to review the complaint and response, it may request an extension of time for good cause by contacting the Division of Open Government. Just one other thing, just so that we,
This is the one I couldn't open
that's,
from Holly.
okay. Just let me go through the, section 3 on the ones that we did. Once the public body has responded to the complaint, it allows them, if you're not satisfied that the public body responds to your complaint, you may file a copy of the complaint with the division by mail, email, or by hand, but only once you have waited for 30 days after filing the complaint with the public body. When you file your complaint with the division, please include the complaint form and all documents relevant to the alleged violation. You may wish to attach a cover letter explaining why the public body's response does not adequately address your complaint. The division will not review complaints filed with us more than 90 days after violation unless we guarantee an extension to the public body or you can demonstrate good cause for delay. So that's what will happen with the other two. In other words, they have an appeal process for the other two.
Right, but they have to wait 30 days.
Yeah.
Like, I filed one, and I didn't like the response. I now have 90 days to respond, so my last day to respond is September 14th. So
Okay,
that's just the process.
so everybody saw the complaint. I think we need to respond to this or get an extension, one of the two.
I'd make a motion to do an extension.
I'll volunteer to write the extension if we do.
Okay, we need to take a probably no by next Wednesday. If we ask for an extension and it's denied, we'll have to meet next Wednesday,
Okay.
okay?
I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, it's just the timing of the meetings, that's all.
Since the way it's written, and it starts off with Julie first, I'll ask her to do the same for this complaint,
No problem.
if you would.
Yep, no problem.
So is that it, that's a motion to extend?
Motion.
Request for an extension?
Yeah, motion by Julie for Bob to ask for an
Request
extension. Request an
And
extension.
Did we get a second?
Second.
Okay.
Could, excuse me, well, just for clarity, do we need a date to extend it to?
That's a good question.
We did the last time, that's why I just
Right.
wanted to know.
Because the 16th is our next meeting, and the 15th would be day 14,
Yeah,
so 16.
we would have to actually request that to be
How about-
extended to,
August 30th? We're not gonna take that long, like, we had more time to do these, but, you know,
Do you wanna go to September, or do you wanna do it in August?
August 30th should be fine.
Okay. August 30th?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Because then we can do it on the 16th, and then it'll meet, will meet all the deadlines.
Mm-hmm.
It should meet all the deadlines.
Okay.
If we get an extension.
Have a motion to request an extension. Bob will do that and request it to be extended to August 30th. Any discussion? No discussion? Okay. Darlene,
Yes.
thank you. Bev,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Yes.
Bob, yes, Jeff,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. Okay. So just to take and let people know, if they don't grant the extension, it will be meeting next Wednesday. If they do grant the extension, it'll be we'll have till the 30th. We will end up discussing this on the 16th.
Where they don't have.
Okay, let's see what else I have here.
It's almost like a form letter now.
Yeah.
All right.
Either way, it'll be next meeting if we have to meet on next Wednesday or the other one.
Anything under old business or open issues? Nothing on the old business? Okay, since nothing on open issues or old business, new business, just for everybody's information, I received another inquiry for somebody to get on the advisory committee. We already have one person that's ahead of this individual, so if we have any openings, the individual is Mr. Bernie Heaney. He used to be on and he resigned.
Yeah.
He ended up submitting it again. So I'm gonna just leave it at that. I'm not gonna take and end up sharing this with anybody unless we have an opening. And then we can end up going to the people that we already have openings for.
Too bad he didn't get on when we had openings.
When he was
You
what?
got me.
Yeah, he got.
I know.
Okay.
You wanna trade me in? for
No,
that?
I don't trade you in.
Well, Bernie was very disappointed that
No, that was, that
he
was.
he did an excellent job of looking at the school buildings and came up with a very extensive report as to his findings. He went and talked to, the superintendent, Ms. Miller. She agreed with a lot of the things he's had, in fact, as far as the target number, she agreed with him on that, which I was really surprised. He brought it up at a meeting, the chair at that time, and I was not the chair, I can't take credit for that, said that, did not put it on the agenda when he wanted it on the agenda.
Yeah.
Bernie took it upon himself to end up bringing the information to the annual town meeting, and I think he did an excellent job of making the presentation, but the community
Didn't wanna
did
hear
not
it.
stand behind him.
No, they didn't wanna hear it. And it was sad because he was right and he did do a good
Right.
job.
The next item, as I received this in the box, in the email box, or our box. Okay. This is from Carter Terrazini, interim town administrator. As you well know, the development of the annual budget and legislation is a delicate choreography. That's an unusual word. The draft countdown to our FY19 budget is attached with that in mind. This is based upon using the same basic process as last year's. The calendar has been adjusted to show a clearer date to receive the AC comments on revenue. Hopefully, if the revenue setting policy has been adopted on schedule, you will be past the psychological discussion at this point and down to the math. Should you have changes to this project, you may need to adjust the timeline. Please understand the delivery of the preliminary and final budget by the two school districts. What two school districts?
Narragansett and
Monty Tech and
Monty Tech.
Narragansett.
Oh, yes, okay. Is totally out of our control and may have a major impact upon our deliberations. However, in my initial conversation with Dr. Casavant, he was optimistic about meeting these dates at his end. Continued cooperation and conversations with Narragansett and Monty Tech should be high on our priorities. And on the back, the countdown to FY budget, and it's got starred. Invite AC. I find this very unusual because we probably should be talking about this, is on 9/6, the BOS, the Board of Selectmen do a retreat. I guess they don't want anybody to know what they're gonna take and discuss. BOS goal setting. Well, every community that I know, as far as revenue and for the budget, as far as advisory, has input to that. They didn't allow it last year, and it doesn't sound like they're allowing it this year. Board of Selectmen's review revenue projections, and that's when they invite the AC, and that's on November 6th. AC reviews and advises on revenue projections. I mean, we should be inputting for the guidelines in addition to that. BOS sets revenue projections on the 14th of November. TA guidance memo to department heads on December 4th. Department heads request to the TA on January 1st. House Bill 1 filed on the 15th of January. Board of Selectmen opens warrant on the 22nd of January. Revised revenue projections to Board of Selectmen by February 1st. Close the warrant on February 6th. Preliminary Narragansett is on February 15th. Preliminary Monty Tech is on February 15th. TA recommended budget and legislation packet presentation. And we got another star, so that must be, they're inviting us on the February 26th. Board of Selectmen Workshop, Public Works, Community Services, and ODS on March 2nd. Final Narragansett and Monty Tech on March 15th. Board of Selectmen Workshop, Administrative Finance, Executive Offices, and Public Safety on March 19th. Board of Selectmen Workshop, General Discussion on February 2nd. Board adopts and forwards to AC on February 9th.
April 9th.
Oh, excuse me, April 9th,
I have a couple of questions on this.
yes.
Regarding Paul's information that he just presented tonight. It doesn't look like that would be, we're not invited to talk with them
Right.
until November, so maybe we should ask for an agenda item at a selectmen meeting, so we can go over our concerns as a committee. Another issue I have is, do we have a Department of Community Services?
I'm not sure, what do you mean?
I don't think we have a Department of Community Services.
Yeah.
It says BOS workshop on 3/19. Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's 3/2. And what's ODS? We have inspectional services,
Yeah,
but what's ODS?
I don't know.
I don't either. What are they doing? When is that gonna happen? I mean, it looks like it's already been decided because it's in this document that they just put in your mailbox.
Yep.
Without voting it.
It's dated the 31st, so I mean, this is the first time we're getting to take it up.
All right, I'm
It's
just
amazing, I thought somebody
asking,
was gonna be in Maine.
you know?
Here's my inputs on this.
It says it's a draft.
It does say it's a draft,
It says the draft countdown. So it's,
right,
so to me,
but,
it's not set in stone.
right, but these aren't even departments that exist right now, budgetarily. We don't have a Department of Community Services. We don't know what ODS is.
Here's my inputs. Looking at putting it out to department heads that late into January does not meet
The municipal calendar.
the calendar, the DOR calendar. It's at least 2 months earlier. The actual setting of the guidelines is supposed to happen in October. Once those guidelines are formulated, then you go out and you submit with those guidelines to the department heads for their inputs to budgets. In other words, guidelines. Here's what other communities use as guidelines. Level fund, 1% down, 2% up. Those are guidelines as to what they need to do with their budgets. If we were to say level fund, then they would level fund their budgets to the 18 budget. If we said 1% up, they could increase 1%. You don't see it anywhere on here. You don't see anywhere on here any inputs from the advisory committee.
Well, he's got the department head, the town administrator guidance memo to the department heads on 12/4, which I'm assuming is
Yep.
setting those parameters, but, you're right, I mean, it's late, and doesn't have any input from any other body, so.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, what I got out of the meeting, the joint meeting with the department, the DOR, the selectmen, and our committee, was that, like, we're on a short leash. And we should really be following, the municipal calendar is developed by the DOR. It's not something we came up with.
Right.
So I would think they would be concerned if we're not following their guidelines as a town to do our budget, because it seems to be recreating the same problems that we've had in the past. It's
Right,
it's
it's
not
not
gonna
support-
address those.
Putting this out that late, if they skip the schedule at all, we're in trouble. We will not be able to get our booklet out. This impacts our ability to get that booklet out that we just talked about formatting to the community.
Right.
If we're just finalizing, seeing that they're adopted and getting it forwarded to us.
From what I gathered in the paper, they're talking about hiring Terrazini, but they're also talking about another person that they're going to kind of train. Where is that money coming from?
They budgeted $110,000 for the town administrator in the 18 budget.
Yeah,
Mr. Terrazini gets 1,250 for his 2 days a week. So that's in the vicinity of 55,000, I believe, somewhere there, plus or minus 5,000. So that leaves about $40,000 to $45,000. They can hire a management intern.
Oh, God.
That's to answer your question, Bill.
Another person that doesn't know anything. And then by the time he figures it out, he'll leave. Not my idea of a good time. I wonder what the DOR will think.
I attended that meeting and Mr. Fortis did not participate in that because he didn't agree with extending. His thing was to bite the bullet, make the decision to take and end up in going out to the pool again to get a permanent administrator.
They didn't even advertise, I think, on the state website. Well, they run the town. Anyway,
Well, there you go, there's one of the, for our earlier, goals. New statement for our goal list.
At the next meeting, I think we should have an agenda item to discuss, asking to get on the selectmen's agenda to discuss Paul's presentation.
because I can't see going through another year like we did last year. It was terrible.
Is that a form of a motion, Julie, or just
I make a motion to do that.
agenda? The motion to place on the next agenda an item for discussion of getting on the selectmen's
Agenda to discuss.
agenda for discussion of, about this.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Here, let me unplug it for you.
Nope.
There you go.
I'm just burning myself a note. So we're gonna have an agenda, the motion is to have an agenda item for us to discuss, to get on the Board of Selectmen's meeting as an agenda item to discuss the FY 19 budget. And what did he call it? The budget
Countdown.
outline.
No, not the budget outline, Paul's presentation.
Oh, Paul's presentation.
Right.
Yep.
We could put the budget presentation too, if you want, I don't care.
Do you wanna include that?
May as well, then they know what we have in mind.
I'm sorry, what are we? We're talking about our next meeting, we're gonna discuss,
Agenda item to discuss getting on the Board of
yeah,
the Board of Selectmen agenda to end up having your document and the FY 19 budget as the topics to discuss. Is we'll have that and we'll roll it up for next meeting, which is the schedule and your presentation.
That way they'll know where we are, what we expect and what we need. And if they have a problem, we'll know that too.
Okay.
No sense in keeping it in our pocket.
We have a motion, do we have, did we get a second?
yes, by Beth.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Again, we'll have an agenda item on our next meeting to discuss getting on the Board of Selectmen agenda to take and end up making the presentation that Paul has got and the FY19 budget schedule outline.
Yep.
Okay? Any more discussion on that? Okay. Seeing and hearing no discussion? Darlene,
Yes.
Bev,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. We did get another copy of the Beacon addressed to the wrong post office box, but I did send them an email and I haven't got a response, so it may take a while. Is there anything under old or new business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I'm gonna take and play with you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Darlene,
Yes.
Bev,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
No.
Jeff,
I wonder what's going on,
and I'll vote yes.
the guy wanting to come back on the.
Meeting adjourned.